we'll be in all of our own personal universes creating new baby universes. And that's the journey we're going on. And that doesn't sound like accountancy to me.
Well, I haven't heard that for a long time. The little insane in the membrane, I went, oh my God, what's that all about?
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
One of the things that I was watching recently was a documentary of Mike Oldfield. Mike Oldfield had produced Tubular Bells in 1973. He was about 19 years of age. And what was interesting was that it was the beginning of Virgin Records, because he had come up with all these ideas. He'd learned how to use his guitar. He'd learned how to do some amazing things. And he was an awkward kid. He didn't always get on well with people, but he had a passion. There were problems that he had at home. And part of his outlet was to experiment with different kind of instruments and just build things up. And he produced a really kind of rudimentary tape, just a little voicemail type thing almost, as it would have been back then. But he happened to be a jobbing bass player. And it just so happened that Richard Branson had just bought this house for £10,000 that he borrowed from one of his aunt, who charged him excessive interest, apparently, as according to the story. And in this big house, they set up all these studios and they got these bands in. And Mike Oldfield had gone up to, very nervous as 19-year-old, and sort of forced it on this producer. And they'd listened to it and thought, oh, that's interesting. And as things went on, some of the other partners within the business had sort of kind of went, okay, to get them to develop a bit more, they bought all these equipment, all these different instruments, loads of instruments, and he started to produce his music. And the first thing that Richard Branson sort of said when he listened to Tubular Bells was, should there be vocals on that? I like Cliff Richard. Can we have some vocals on that? And they had to spend a lot of time trying to convince Richard that basically, no, it's an instrumental piece. And the thing is that what was interesting was that nobody had asked Mike Oldfield to do this. It was just something that he'd done as part of his need to solve a few psychological problems that he was having with his family and his mum not being there all the time and various different things. So he'd been very, very creative in producing this item that suddenly took off almost by accident. It was just all these things seemed to fall into place. Garvin would say it was the universe was suddenly opening doors. Our Pandora box had just been opened and it just went and did its own little thing and it started to blossom. And that was the story, just took off. One of the directors of the film The Exorcist suddenly heard it and stripped out all his music and put in Mike Oldfield's music. And again, it launched it. The problem that Mike Oldfield then had was that he wasn't used to the fame that was suddenly being built up, and all this fame was being imposed. But the record just went from strength to strength to strength to strength. And you never know when that's going to happen. So really what I'm trying to say here, nearly 50 years later, 47 years later, is that if you've got a passion for something and you need to get it out there or just do it because you want to do it, you've got to do it. And that's what we're doing with our Film Production Academy. We are just doing it because actually we do know that people want it because we've listened to what is being said. And that's where we are at the moment.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to just point out a little bit of serendipity in the universe. I was trying to remember a name in the last show. Now, the last show, for anyone out there, is probably 2 days, 3 days ago, but for us, it was about 15 minutes ago. But there was a word that was triggered in the last show, which was summertime. And I was trying to remember a name, and the name was actually Cliff Richard. Now, I don't know if he sings Summertime. He might do, might not. But the word summer, I'm imagining a film I saw many a year ago as a young lad with my father, and it was Cliff Richard and a bunch of others in these mod-type suits dancing down the street, singing some song. It may have been summertime.
On a summer holiday.
So there you go. So it's something to do with summer. It is
holiday.
that. That's exactly it. We're going on a summer holiday. I was trying to remember the name Cliff Richard, and not 15 minutes later, you've just come up with Mike Oldfield and Cliff Richard. I don't follow Cliff Richard. I wouldn't have remembered him from 40 years ago. I wouldn't have bought a record. He would have no reason to be in my mindset. And here we are his name twice in 15 minutes. It makes no sense whatsoever. But it was a young lad that became a star, singing and dancing. He's still there. He's gone from what would be seen to be a journey of Generation X to Generation Y Not. It's the whole 60, 70-year gambits there. He's still there, still dancing, still singing, still doing what it says on the tin. And wouldn't that be brilliant? He did it early all the way through. We're trying to find at the end game, or of what most people will be thinking is the end game. We're going, no, Fifth, we can start. We're allowed to start now. And we just didn't know it then. We couldn't formalize it. We couldn't verbalize it. We didn't know what it was. We weren't you could have been closer, but I wasn't immersed in it. I knew somewhere deep down, it has to be to do with people. It has to be something to do with show. It doesn't need to be Cliff Richard going on a summer holiday. I'm not going to start tap dancing down any street anytime soon with a bunch of teenagers. Well, maybe I will. I don't know. That might be our TikTok journey. But definitely, it was what does make sense now is I can see it has to be a packaging of creativity. It has to be creating jobs. It has to be creating things that will stand the test of time and deliver value to others. That's what I meant to be doing with George. And not just with George, the very definition of it, based on what we said in the last show, was it's a minimum 40 people a time. It's an awful lot of others. It's not only that core 40, but the industry. We're saying this is a feeder to the industry, to the new talent of tomorrow, using the talent of yesteryear to repackage and give another set of opportunities and create content. It's a microcosm industry. That Pandora box is a TARDIS with its own universe inside, wanting to manifest on every time you open the door of it. And it's when we open that door, everybody's piling in. We know what's inside the box is 40 people doing some movie magic. So when you close the box, they're all in there doing whatever it is they're doing. No one knows, no one can see. And it's until you open that door again that it all falls back out, and this universe can consume that universe after the fact. So we're very excited about the language. It's our language. It's the film language. It's creativity and wrapping it up and making it real and making dreams a reality. And it's all very exciting stuff. It beats the hell out of debit, credit and sums, I'll tell you. But they're still in there. That's the madness of it. There's no escaping the numbers. The numbers are what allows the magic to happen. You have to have your budget. And what we're saying is we're micro budget. We're not going to be the 50 million somethings, because that's a whole set of madness that we don't have an appetite for. But our people will come from there, and our students and our workers of tomorrow will go back to there. But where we are is we're in our little universe. We will own this universe. We will be in control of elements of this universe, and we can open and shut that door as and when it makes sense. And that's what we want to be doing. We want to be creating these baby universes and letting them out into this one. And we want to have our travelers that will travel with us. These space cadets of today are our crew, that's it. We need to have the crew. The one bunch are driving the ship, but the others are the passengers. So, the passengers and the crew might mix and meld over time if you're a little bit lost in space and time. And that's what we want to be. We want to be lost in space and time. We won't know what the day of the week it is. We don't know what we're doing. We'll be in all of our own personal universes, creating new baby universes. And that's the journey we're going on. And that doesn't sound like accountancy to me. So back to you, George.
Now, well, this is where it gets really kind of interesting, because while you're actually talking, I'm using these buds in my ear, which are kind of Bluetoothy, and all of a sudden one went crackle and the other went pop, and then the sound jumped across to my other side of the head and then back again, and it went through this membrane, and I went, what the hell is this insane membrane? Now, it's all about relationships.
That's a song I keep on quoting and saying in the membrane.
Hang on. Because I need to get this bit done, because I need to get you back in on this. This is all about relationships, and we're not cutting this out. This is all about relationships. And Garvin said, right, George, every time someone connects to you on LinkedIn, you need to sort of message them back and say something. And hang on, use this little bit of text. Oh, you use this bit of text, and everybody's popping up, and somebody says, well, I haven't heard that for a long time. The little insane in the membrane. I went, oh my God, what's that all about? And I had to do a little bit of research and found out it was a song. Now, I don't know much about that song, but Garvin does. Tell us, Garvin.
I don't. Well, if you give me who there was, because you just done the research, then I'll remember. I know I'm a little insane in the membrane. You've got to be a little bit insane in the membrane to make sense of it all. That's the whole point. I said, and that's why I was saying to people when we said a little hello to the universe, we're going, these are crazy times. But if you're a little bit insane in the membrane, you can make sense of crazy times. Otherwise, you will panic and go crazy. But then we're saying insanity and creativity and genius and madness are all on different, they're all part of the same curve of sorts. So to find madness, it's going to be wrapped up in genius, or the other way around, or some element of. And I'm going, I think I am the mad scientist. I think I am. There's a little bit of mad genius inside, but the others, you just go, you're damn mad. You're a lunatic. What you're trying to verbalize is, no. There's so much creativity bubbling. I don't know how to package it. I haven't got the power. I haven't got the tools. I can't verbalize it. You're the wrong audience. You won't let me go past 30 seconds of something and you're gone. So therefore, it's lost. It's lost back to the ether of the universe. It was on the way in from this universe to gatekeeper of your chatterbox, and it found a door, and it tried to get through, but there was no one to listen. You didn't know what to do with it. I'm sure the light bulb could have been invented in prehistoric times had he not got a big sort of not mallet and grabbing someone by the hair and dragging them across the yard. You're going and killing a couple of dinosaurs. He could have been inventing the light bulb earlier, but no one understood. The dinosaur didn't understand. His wife and kids didn't understand that, okay, I'll just invent fire, but I could have invented electricity. It was there. It's always been in the ether. It's just tapping into that universe and being in a position to know what to do with it and to manifest it, because it's going to involve an awful lot more people than you and more parts. And that's where we are. We're going, our universe, for us to build it, we have to find the parts, we have to find the people, we have to populate it, we have to have the materials, we have to have the resources. We know what it looks like on the postcard, but we can only take that picture after we've built it. And that's where we keep on going. You want to be insane in the membrane to start this journey, because most people want to step into the postcard. They want you to have solved all the problems and de-risked it. They want to just turn up on the seat and go on the journey. They don't want to build the bus on the way. So it's like, that wasn't an answer to your question, George. Who sang the song? And I might remember who it was. Cypress Hill,
apparently. And
right.
There's actually Insane in the Brain, which apparently seems to be on the Black Sunday album. But there is Insane in the Membrane. Whether that's the same album or not, I'm not too sure. And I don't know if I ever knew Cypress Hill. I may have heard them on the radio. No, it won't even be that. All I can remember are those couple of lyrics, and I can feel them repeating them in my head, and it's Insane in the Membrane. And that's all it needs to be. Those three, Insane in the 4 words possibly, is all that matters, because that is what's making the difference. Well, this is quite interesting, because apparently the intro is... who you trying to get crazy with else? Don't you know I'm loco? And we were talking about earlier on, keeping on going, keeping on locomoting and driving forward. Now, the other thing is, it says, to the one on the flamboyant tip, I just toss that ham in the frying pan. Like spam, get done when I can and slam. Dawn, I feel like the son of Sam. Ah, there you go, son of Sam. Don't make me wreck. I won't say that word. Hectic. Next, get the chair. Going like General Electric. Loco. There you go.
Right. Well, there's the locomotion. There's a train. There's General Electric. Garvin Electricity was my nickname. So when I was growing up, because I was always doing the shaking the hands. They thought I was like, electric. But again, if I think back on that, what you were saying was, I was always passionate. I was always excited about nothing and everything. Therefore, people would give you a wide berth because they just didn't understand what the hell that was. You were on a spectrum of your own making. But it's also not magnetism. You're going, anyone that, whatever your your poles are, you're going, if you repel the person, whoever that person is, they didn't get it. They can't get it. It's not in them. They're not going to change who they are to align with you. They will never get it. But those that you attract are the ones you are meant to attract. And it makes sense because they get it. They're attracted to you. But you have to be out there and we're looking for them. That's our new journey right now. We want our new panels. We're creating jobs, but it's not for anybody and everybody. It's not money to pay for something on time. That's just, the reward. What we want to attract are those that get it. We want to attract that creativity. We want to attract those that want to give to the next generation. We want to attract those that want to give of their last, to have that one last chance dance and the last chance saloon to make a difference and create that baby universe of we don't know we're going to build that new song that's going to be insane in the membrane from now till doomsday and get that little viral something, that little worm, whatever you want to, the viral worm. That's what we want to do. We're going on the journey of that. If we can get that pulse generating in that little TARDIS of baby universe creator and the crew that's in there, the ones that want to go, that's the strange thing. If you were given the chance by, your man Elon Musk to go, we're going to planet X, Y, and Z and we're going to populate it. It's a one-way journey. It's 200 years. Who's putting their hands up? The crew have to go. They're go. I want to be the captain of this ship. They're signed up. Scotty and the crew are there. They're the engineers and the doctors. But who's going to sign up to be the passengers? Because they're going to become the next crew and they're going to become the populators of the next planet. And they've got to take on all these roles and generate the next, population. But you're safe here at Safe Haven. Do you suddenly leave the planet and go, I need to leave the planet. I need to be on that ship. I need to be, going on this long journey because that's what I'm meant to be doing, as opposed to there's a million things you can do on this planet. So we're strangely enough, there's going to be people attracted to that to go on these strange journeys in these weird sort of ships that aren't safe, but they're going on a journey no one else is going on. And that's where people are attracted to. It's Star Trek territory. It's go where no man has gone before, or no being, or whatever sexuality, it doesn't matter. But it's a go where no one has gone before. In itself is the attraction which will override the impulses in certain personalities. We're on that journey. So do you want to get on the ship or do you want to stay on the planet?
And part of it is breaking through the membrane or breaking through that glass ceiling that seems to stop you from getting higher and higher and higher. And I think that's what we're doing. We're finding the tools to sort of drill through that membrane, that ceiling of glass that we think is too thick for us to actually get through. But we can see what's beyond and we want to go through it. And we're going to get through it, even if we have to go and get Scotty to actually beam us through it at some points to see the other side. But we know that future past thing that we've all been exploring recently in some of those episodes that we've been doing, we know that we are on the other side because we already believe that we're on the other side and we're already doing the things on the other side. All we've got to do is catch up with the now to then. And that's what we're actually doing at the moment.
Yeah,
and that's why we're going through all these
journeys.
Yeah.
You've used the language of the membrane again. I'm going, oh, it's terrible. I'm going, you're in the birth sac for all intents and purposes. You were born once and you had to break out of that membrane. Well, I'm not really a doctor. I don't pretend to understand the birthing process. I've seen a few videos, but maybe there's a membrane.
My wife, she's a midwife.
Yeah. But I'm assuming there was a membrane broken somewhere.
Oh yes, there's a membrane.
You were born.
That's what happens when the water
And
breaks.
if that's the case, we're in the new we were born once, we broke that membrane. This is our second birth now. Our second birth.
Born again.
And that's it. We're not necessarily born again Christians. Nothing wrong with that either for those that do.
Born again.
But we're born again in the sense of we're drawing the slate clean and going, we can go on a new journey. We're born again in the sense of we don't need to die at death because we have to.
New perceptions,
we can go,
new concepts.
That's it. So we're breaking that, not material membrane, but this mental membrane that's been preventing us growing beyond where we grew to date. We have
the illusion of not thinking we can go forward.
That's it. And now we're saying I'm only born now. I'm a baby. You said it a year ago. I forgot everything. I forgot my past. But then I knew nothing of my new career path. And I've been learning, albeit fast-tracked by your good self, George, in the language of editing and audio and visual and, the language of the film industry. I don't pretend to know any of it. I barely understand what the English is. I'm not the expert in that. George is, and the crew is, and the cast is. But at the same time, I understand more about the constituent parts for having these conversations and doing the research I've done. And it allows me to understand, like you said, that you can dip in and out of it. If you want to do more like editing, you can become an editor. If you want to play a role, you can be an extra. If you want to play a main part, well, with a bit of practice and depending on if you own the whole thing, you can put yourself in star A if you want to, but it may not be the best thing for the film or the cast or the crew because you may not have that ability to act those asks of the story in you. But it doesn't mean you can't, and ever. If you want and need and have the passion for, you can learn and can certainly have the opportunity or go on that journey. So I'm born again, not a born again Christian. I'm a born again being, and in the universe of the film universe or the micro budget film production universe, and happy to be the baby learning and don't pretend to be the expert. But give me time, you never know.
And really, that's part of the journey that we'll be taking people on, is that they'll have a new perception of themselves by the time they end going through our process. So it is being born again. It's having a new realization, that cognitive process of kind of going, eureka, I can do this because I couldn't do it before, because now I can see it because I couldn't see it before. And that's the key thing. It's actually having the confidence to suspend what you think are all your beliefs and starting to see another way forward, another way of doing things, and actually always being in the now. Because I think that's something we've discussed about, how we were talking about the artist's way in several of our episodes, yonks ago now, it seems. But it was always about being in the now. How if you can enjoy where you are now, regardless of where you think you are, and start to appreciate where you are now. And I think in our journey, although it seems quite difficult because we've got the pain of going through a lot of paperwork, actually, if we can enjoy being in the now and just be in the moment, we will be able to get through all those obstacles that we think that we have ahead of us. Stop the chitter-chatter. Stop the chitter-chatter from thinking that they are in, unsurmountable things that we can't get over, because we will get over them. It just takes a little bit of time. But if we just keep chipping away one at a time, we will actually get there. Because who had known that, I don't know, 6 months ago, we'd be doing episode, I think, maybe into the 60s now. We're getting there. We're in the second series anyway, wherever that is now. And we're soldiering on, and we're producing these shows. We're building our confidence. We're talking about what we want to be doing. We're sharing that with others. They're getting excited. And I think what Garvin was saying is that if we bring along the people that have the same passion and actually reject those that don't, because I think saying no is very important. Most of us constantly want to say yes because we want to make people happy, but actually learning to say, no, sorry, I don't think you'll quite work with the mix. In fact, you'll spoil it and make it go sour. We'll need to take you out. And just go with the people that have the energy that will keep it going, because it's like having a carburetor with a bit of muck in it. It'll actually stop the engine. And that's what somebody who's negative and not with you will actually do. They'll stop the engine and it'll actually come to a shrieking halt. And that's not what you want. You want it to keep on going smoothly. So you need to get rid of all those bits of dust and those things that will get in the way, and keep the motor going, keep it oiled with the right fuel and the right oil inside it, and you'll do well. Wherever the membrane takes you in that one. Is there a membrane in that one? There's probably something floating around in the carburetor. So yeah, there probably is. But it's all about having new ideas and looking at the world from a different perspective, and actually getting yourself outside of the box and looking at it from another angle. And that will get you somewhere.
No, strangely enough, there was membranes in there, because that was all the dinosaurs of yesteryear, and they're all mishmashed up in the oil and the petrol. So there's plenty of membranes in there, just a couple of million years old. Or well, that's what we're led to believe. there's lots of conspiracy theories that say that wasn't dinosaurs at all. That was just something else injected in there by a couple of aliens. All of these little bones have been dotted around just to keep us entertained. That was another Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide sort of item, I believe. Or maybe it was Dirk Gently. I'm not too sure. No, it was Hitchhiker. But it's that type of thing. This is our beliefs based on the facts at hand, based on our own understanding of our personal universe. But there are rules that can be broken. Actually, like some of the interesting films out there, and I think Lucy was one of them there lately I watched.
Yes.
And it was, if you could tap into 100% of your potential, just one little scene in that particular movie, like Lucy was saying, she's saying, numbers aren't numbers. They're confines and parameters that man came up with in order for him to contain himself and work within limited restrictions. So it's had he gone further and not put those parameters in, then matter was movable and energy was not even quantifiable. And we are our own limitation. Our own language limits us. If we don't have the language of film, then how can I be talking it, and no one in the industry would recognize you for what you are if you weren't talking their language of acronyms or movie quotes, possibly. I don't even know. But I had no use for this language before because I was talking telco this and something else. And why would you have that language? It has no use in that field or that area. Whereas now it does. Now, you could have talked to them at the water cooler about what was on the TV last night, and there was a little bit of the consumption language of, I watched an episode of Star Trek. So that was about as close as you probably would have got. But now I'm very, very happy again that, it's about these parameters and restrictions. Stop restricting yourself. Stop putting in parameters that aren't really there. That's you rebuilding your box of comfort zone. And on that basis, I'm not comfortable filling in these forms. I'm not comfortable talking to those people. I'm not comfortable with these questions from others about I'm not sure of the answers. And I keep on seeing these as making me stop. And they are the normal stops to most people. If you accept them and just stop and go, right, draw a line. I'm not dealing with that anymore. I don't have to. I don't want to. I'm just going to give up. It's not give up. It's nearly stop. But it might as well be give up, because if you don't go from that 80% to the 90, the whole 80 just has no value yet. So that's where we're going. It's push through the pain, recognize the language for what it is, and don't build new comfort zones. The comfort zone I want to end with is we're comfortable in our skin doing the thing we set out to do, and we have the parameters built in that they're engine parameters that these things can be maintained and can control the environment to lead to successful outcomes and facilitate the inputs in a manner that can be understood so people can buy, sell, or consume. So it's all just language, but it needs to manifest. Don't see it as restrictions, see it or obstacles, but more see it as the challenge that it is to create the actual value and deliver the end game.
I was fascinated by that, because I was suddenly seeing all these mathematicians who were coming up with numbers and things to restrict them, and they got out of the frequency and they were building effectively a Borg cube, which was iron. It was even more restrictive than the cardboard box that we'd been using, and then they had to go and make a cardboard box to wrap it in and send it off to Amazon to somebody as well. I don't know. Anyway, what was interesting was that we were talking about, in a way, frequencies. Again, a membrane is where we talk about a membrane. I talked about my ears and what had happened between my two ears, which maybe there isn't anything in between them except for a membrane.
The vibration of that hollow,
the vibration,
the hollow cave that's in there now, the bear cave. The bear is left.
Drum effect. That's
an empty cave.
It's the membrane, the effect of drumming and creating a beat and creating a frequency and creating rhythm, which is actually what Mike Oldfield did, going back to the very beginning of the show, was actually doing. He was interested in the rhythms that were coming up, and there was a kind of repetitiveness. We were talking about practice makes perfect, which is what he did to learn to play the guitar. We want our filmmakers to practice and practice, to get into the rhythm and the flow of what they're doing. So the filmmaking almost becomes a musical experience with what they're doing, with the relationships that they actually warm together with other people in the filmmaking process, the actors, the crew, and everybody else. And to do that, you have to get into the rhythm. You have to get outside of those boxes that kind of confine you like a cell. We were talking about the Borg there, but it's almost like a cell that restricts you and imprisons you and doesn't allow you to achieve the things you want to do. And it's all about, you don't get stuck in there time after time after time. You want to break out of that and get into the flow of the rhythm of what the universe is all about, which is what Garvin would talk about quite a bit. And I think be born again in those other ways. Those are all very important because we build up constructs inside our head of what we think the world is around us. And I think it's actually getting rid of those. And once you do, and I think we talked about getting outside of our head, that chitter chatter box that kind of confines you within the box of your head. Maybe I've got a cube on my head at the moment. And instead, if you're at present outside and not having expectations, suddenly the universe can talk to you. Whoever you want to believe can talk to you and actually inspire you and motivate you and get your engine going and get your pumps going so you can actually fire those things up and be more and more creative in what you're actually doing. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. Get people to be more and more creative and see where the possibilities are, especially in a world that we think is restrictive, but it just needs to fire up that imagination that the world isn't quite the way that we think it is. And the more relationships we can build up with people, the more perceptions we can see and start to realize that the world is far bigger and greater than what we actually thought it was.
Now, I'm just going to pick a couple of sentences there or a couple of words. And if someone dipped in and out of particular sentences, what they would have heard was, you need to get out of your head to start hearing voices to get insane in the membrane. And you're going, and there's nothing. So hold on a second. What are these lads talking about? To get out of your head to hear voices. And we're going, no. The better wording there was, to just quieten the chatterbox so we can open the portal to the external universe. So the external flow can come in and manifest itself in this universe through, practical, whatever work, as opposed to, I'm going to get out of my head. I'm going to start hearing voices. It's going to tell me what to do. I think that's back to Son of Sam again. Or I'm not too sure who Son of Sam is, if that's not that mass murderer guy, or is that something else?
It's really listen to the music. Listen to the music.
Right. So Dance Your Own Tune was also in there. I'm going to sing my old song, write my theme tune, sing the theme tune, dance to my own drums. And if you don't like it, you can lump it because this is my personal universe and that's your personal universe too. We don't all need to be singing to the same theme tune. And it's not a choir. It's because that's okay. It'll sound great, but it's not going to lead to anything new. We want the creativity is in. We don't know what the lyrics are yet. We don't know what it's going to sound like to the finish. We know what the parts are that will be in harmony to each other based on a rule set. But we want to write new songs, sing new songs, make new music, create new content. And it will have story arcs and it'll have structure and process. So it will have a formula that was previously understood in the past and should lead to a likely consumption in a certain way. But no one cares about that factual anything. All they're going to say is, I like that. I didn't like that. Or they might start humming along like me. I probably just hum in terms of smell as opposed to hum the theme tune. I don't have that retention. I'm looking forward to these new lyrics and I don't know what the film is yet, but I'm hoping there's some jokes to crack that we might be able to use in the pub. So we might leave it there.
Yep. So just to wrap up, we started off with Mike Oldfield, who actually produced an album that was a single track on both sides with no voices because they didn't listen to the voices. They just went their own way. They listened to their own frequencies. They listened to their own music. And really, that's what we're saying. Get outside of your head. Stop listening to the chitter chatter box, which is really just you talking to yourself, and listen to the universe. It doesn't have to have words to speak to you. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode.
Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Do what it says on the tin. Follow and share.